Hey guys, welcome to the KesteKrafts fractal burning special. It's great to have you here because we're going to be talking today about fractal burns. First thing we're going to understand though, what's a fractal? I don't know. A curve or geometric figure, each part of which has the same statistical character as the whole. It's basically a shape that looks the same or similar at greater magnifications, like a snowflake or a cloud, or more or less a lot of the shapes that occur naturally. Alright, now that we know what a fractal is, what's a burn? Wait, seriously? Alright, all jokes aside, one of these patterns you'd find in nature is the path electricity takes through air during lightning. Similarly, when we're fractally burning wood, it's the path electricity is taking through wood. Okay, so before we get started on the process, I just want to talk about some safety precautions. Firstly, fractal burning is incredibly dangerous, far more so than anything else in the workshop in my opinion. You have to understand that your body, your brain, your nervous system works through electricity, and if you interrupt its system it can spell instant death. This machine here that creates the voltage to burn the wood was designed by a professional electrician, and it produces 5,000 volts roughly and is made from a microwave transformer. Whenever working with fractal burns, I wear these high voltage gloves that are rated from 10 to 12,000 volts. I stand on a rubber mat to make sure that the electricity doesn't see me as an easy pathway to get through to the ground, and make sure the mat is rubber, not just a rubbery material. I also prepare both ends of the circuit on the piece of wood that I'm working on with the gloves, not touching the metal, before I've even turned the machine on. I then take my distance and turn the machine on while standing on the rubber mat. With that being said though, under no circumstances should you take this as a safety guideline for your own fractal burning. I am not a qualified electrician, and I strongly suggest you consult with a qualified electrician about exactly what you're doing with exactly what hardware before going anywhere near fractal burning. Okay, so a general rule about fractal burning is that the denser the grain on the wood, the nicer the burn becomes. For example, on beech it would usually become a lot of a nicer burn than on something like pine or oak. I have a few different types of woods to give a try out on. As I've mentioned, beech, pine, oak. I've got African walnut. I've got mahogany, or about the closest thing you can get to mahogany. I've got cherry, and I don't even know what this one is, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. It's also been suggested about fractal burning that if the wood is cut at a slight angle to the grain rather than straight with it, like this piece of pine, it also gives a nicer effect. So I'm going to try different things, like burning it on a bit of an angle like that. I'm going to try on the end grain on some of these pieces and see how that comes out. So let's see how this works. Okay, so the first step is to make a mixture of water and baking soda. Now, I've heard a few conflicting ratios of exactly how much water to baking soda you should put, but my method is simply putting enough baking soda in the water that it just about dissolves, and that works for me just fine. So if it completely dissolves, I'll add more baking soda until there's a little bit there that stops dissolving. Once I'm happy with that mixture, I'm going to take the piece of wood, take the mixture, pour some onto the surface of the wood, and spread it with a rag. I like to use this piece of plastic underneath just so the OSB underneath it doesn't soak up water and fall apart. Add a little bit more water than that so it soaks in a little bit, and leave it soaking for a few minutes, 3-4 minutes, something like that. Shouldn't really need more than that. Now, as with fractals, it's impossible to predict the exact path that the electricity is going to take, but you can predict more or less the overall path in which direction it's going to go. Simply by hammering the nails into very specific places on the wood, I'm choosing over here and over here, I'm going to attach the electricity outputs to here and here, which means the electricity is going to try get from here to here. The exact path it's going to take, I won't be able to predict. And I like to use fairly large 4 centimeter long nails, so therefore it has enough space to hold onto the wood and enough space to be able to attach the outlets on it. And now this is where the fun begins. We attach one outlet to this, we attach the other one to that one, keep our distance, make sure I'm standing on the mat, and fire up the machine. So let me explain to you what's happened there. The electricity was trying to get from here to here. Now, being as that wood is not a uniform material, it's a 3-dimensional material, it's not going to take a straight path, or not even close to a straight path. The idea is that the electricity wants to find the easiest route to get from to finish the circuit, basically. And the easiest route in wood would generally be between the grain. So as it's trying to get to this one, it's kind of at the same time following along the path of the grain, because the grain is in this direction and the electricity is trying to go in that direction. Okay, before going on to the next piece, which is a piece of cherry, I just want to say that before you actually do your fractal burning, you want to make sure your piece is surfaced first. You want it jointed and sanded down, because once it's finished with the burning process, if you sand it down with anything rougher than a 220 sandpaper, it's going to take away a lot of that texture that you want. After burning it, you want to wash the piece off with water and a hard bristled brush. Not too hard, you don't want to scrub it with a steel brush because then you're going to scratch up the surface of the wood. But get a hard bristled brush, something that will scrape out a lot of the ash inside, and that will give you a clean enough surface to be able to work with. And just as the two ends connect and the piece starts flaming up, you want to turn it off. Okay, this one's mahogany. See how that goes. That one burnt pretty fast. Okay, this one's the pine, very wide grain. I can already tell I'm not going to like the result of this very much. Or even the start of it for that matter. Maybe it just needs more soap. I don't know if you could see this, but the part it did burn, it didn't burn very nicely. Okay, this one's the walnut, and it's got a similar sort of texture feel to oak, but it has a much denser grain. I'm not sure how this one's going to turn out. It's deciding to go in every direction aside from the direction I assigned for it, so yeah, not sure how I'm going to work with that. It's going to burn the surface of this. Maybe if I put them closer together. Not entirely sure how that one went. Seems that the burn was like a very dense sort of burn. Okay, this one is the beech. It's a very dense wood, but it's also quite a straight grain, so it should come out fairly nice, I think. Let's see. Okay, this is the piece of wood that I'm not quite sure what type it is, but it's quite a dense wood and it's also an end grain, so this one should come out pretty nice. Yeah, that's quite a satisfying result even before I've washed it off, so honestly, I'm going to do another one the other way. I didn't really like that second burn as much. Okay, this one's going to be an interesting one. It's the oak again, but it's the end grain. Let's see how this one turns out. Yeah, perhaps it needs more time to soak in, because the end grain absorbs water really fast. So I'll give that a few minutes. Wait, my mistake. If it absorbs water fast, then it doesn't need more time, it just needs more water. So I've added water and hopefully it will work now. A little too aggressive, but maybe that's what it does. Yeah, it's quite an aggressive burn. I don't know if it's done anything. Maybe the end grain is too much of an angle on oak. And finally, we've got the beech cut at an angle, like a 30-40 degree angle. Not sure how this one's going to turn out, but let's find out. Right, that wasn't good. Okay, so what have we got here? This is the oak, which honestly I think came out a lot nicer than I expected it to, because it's quite an open grain wood. But the end grain of the oak, it did come out like quite a rich sort of shape, but it's burnt so deep that a lot of it's just washed away by its own burn. I would say the same thing for the end grain of the beech. The beech itself came out quite a nice burn, but it was also quite dense and it was quite a deep burn. The pine came out terribly, as I expected it would. The African walnut didn't come out as nice as I thought it would be. It also came out quite deep burns and very dense, and it didn't really spread much nicely. I think the cherry came out a fairly nice shape, but the issue is when you burn wood it also darkens it, and the darkening didn't spread out very nice and it's kind of very patchy. That being said, with the darkening, with the mahogany, I think it came out the nicest burn, but it's darkened it a lot. This is already dried, and you compare it to a piece of mahogany that hasn't been burned. Look at the difference. That has no treatment on it or anything. That's just the burn. So that came out quite nice, I think. And as far as this one's concerned, yep, I was thinking the same thing. 220 grit. Bit of wax. And that's a coaster right there. Alright, that's it for this episode. Please subscribe to my channel and let me know in the comments which one you think came out as the nicest burn.